Tracy Walder, former CIA officer and FBI special agent. Tracy, thank you so much for being here. We know a bit, but there's still so much that we don't know here. Authorities maintaining this was a targeted attack. What type of evidence would be pointing them in that direction at this point?
Thank you for having me, Nicole. So really a key piece of evidence that would point them in that direction would be, the easiest thing would be a note, right? Saying, I have some sort of a vendetta against one of the victims that is in this home. And then that would tell police, okay, this is probably contained really to this scene. Really, if there's a note, that's what would mostly tip them off, or some kind of a message written in the home. But I think really what's become problematic is sort of some of the conflicting reports that we're getting from the police. First they said this is definitely a targeted attack and that there's no need for the public to worry. Then they asked the public to remain vigilant, and now they're sort of walking back whether or not it was a targeted attack. So in my opinion, it was perhaps a bit premature for them to say that.
All right, so Tracy, we know there's surveillance video. We saw it from the night before when they were at that food truck. We know that there is cell phone data. We know one of the victims had called her ex-boyfriend numerous times. What is the most important clue for investigators right now, and how important is it to recover the weapon?
So I'm actually less concerned really about the recovery of the weapon. I think in this day and age with digital tracking and surveillance data, like you mentioned, that's actually what's very critical, sort of retracing their steps, retracing their cell phone movements, retracing those calls. And what I had seen was that Kaylee, yes, she did call her ex-boyfriend about 6 or 7 times in a very short time span, but so did Maddie as well from that house. So I'd want to know the context of that call, as well as any text messages or things of that nature. I think that's really what needs to be focused on, because that's really what's going to point to motive. And I think in this case, motive is what's going to help solve it more so than probably finding the knife. We know that it was most likely a fixed blade knife, and that they're sort of looking at military supply stores around the area. But I'm less concerned about finding that and more concerned about that digital footprint that was left.
And that makes sense. And Tracy, you are a former FBI agent. We know the FBI is now part of this investigation. Can you walk us through what type of work they're doing to try to determine exactly what happened?
So typically, obviously, this is not a federal case in that, they haven't crossed borders or things of that nature. However, the FBI is called in, particularly in a place like Moscow, which is a small community where they need forensic and technical support. So that really is an indicator to me that they need the FBI's assistance in terms of processing any technical data that they have at the scene. So really, that is the FBI's primary role here is really going through that technical evidence.
And Tracy, last question for you. Based on your experience, what would be your preliminary profile of this killer or possibly killers?
Sure. And again, this is just a hypothesis that I have. Obviously, I have no inside information. There's a couple things that have sort of, I guess, concerned me about the case. The first one in that there was a dog that was found alive in the home, and some of the deceased did have defensive weapons. Those indicate to me that there had to have possibly been noise. And so what that tells me is that the perpetrator perhaps was able to subdue people because the perpetrator knew the folks within the home. In terms of not having a forced entry, I'm less concerned about that. Unfortunately, college kids, folks under the influence of alcohol may not lock up. So I really am thinking that this had to have been someone that potentially knew one of the victims. And my guess is that this attack was targeted probably towards one victim, not all of the victims, and that they happened to really just be there by happenstance. So really, my profile is that it's a younger male, probably stronger male, and this is somebody. Knife attacks are typically personal attacks. So this is someone that knew the victims, and had issues perhaps with one or two of the victims.
Are very interesting. All right, Tracy, we thank you so much for your time and your expertise today.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.